W5FC.
Good evening, everyone. This is Virginia in D5F, and I will be starting Skynet on this repeater in about 5 minutes. So if you have anything you need to say on the repeater between now and then, please do so now, and I hope you'll join us for Skynet right at 9 o'clock. Thanks a lot, in D5F.
TechNet Saturday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time?
Hello, this is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, transmitting mobile out of South Irving. Anybody out there this evening?
Station calling, there is a net in progress on this repeater. If you'd like to wait a few minutes and check into the net, please feel free to do so. Do you have any emergency traffic at this time?
No emergency traffic. I'm sorry to have stepped in the net there, but I will stand by and check in at the appropriate time. Again, this is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, standing by.
Okay, thank you so much, and yeah, we hope you will join us and check in for Skynet here in a few minutes. I have to do all the rest of the preamble stuff. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions, just like the fine gentleman did a moment ago. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's Skynet announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice the old-fashioned way, we continue to do that as well. You can check in over the air or on Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, What's Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple days, astronomical Q&A, and a 73 round if time allows. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. All right, so first we're going to see who we have checked in on our electronic check-ins. And at the moment we have KE5 ICX Tom in Corpus Christi. We have NT5TM Tony in East Dallas, NV5S, that's me, Virginia, in Fort Worth. We have N5BB Bill in Irving, N5LIG Dale in Dallas, K5EAG Brandon in far north Dallas. And okay, that looks like that's it for our electronic check-ins at the moment. So next we will take short time check-ins. If you're only going to be able to be on the net for a little while and you want to get on as a short time check-in, please come now with your name, your call sign, and your QTH. Short time check-ins for Skynet. Please come now. Okay, nothing heard for short time. Next we have general check-ins. If you're checking in over RS, please check in now with your name, your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power. Kilo 9 Alpha Hotel Oscar, Ryan and Terrell.
Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel Robert Richardson. This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas. Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. Kilo Juliet 5 November Tango Alpha Joed, far north Dallas.
Alpha Charlie 5 Victor Charlie, Cecil in Mesquite.
Alpha Bravo 5 Delta Mike, Dustin in Dallas.
Okay, that's a pretty good group to start with. I have a couple of fills I might need. I have KG5 UFR Jacob in Farmers Branch, WB4 MFI Ted in Dallas, K9AHO Brian in Terrell, AA5AH. I got Rob in Richardson. Is that your correct name? Please come back with your correct name if I got that wrong.
Yeah, it's Robert in Richardson, AA5AH.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. Next we got W5GUS, Gus in Dallas, KF5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, KJ5NTA, and I did not catch your name, so please come back with your name for me if you can.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Joe Ed, Juliet, Oscar, Echo, Delta.
Okay, thank you, Joe Ed. I kind of did a double take on that, and that's a very unusual name, so I appreciate you coming back with that information. We have AC5VC Cecil in Mesquite, and then AB5DM Dustin in Dallas. Do we have any more RF check-ins for Skynet before I continue?
This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
Okay, I got KG5 WBL James in North Carrollton. And then there was the gentleman who had come in mobile. Would you like to check in at this time? Okay, nothing heard. Maybe he drove out of range, or maybe he'll join us on the next round. All right, next we have Echolink check-ins. I am looking on Echolink now, and all I see is Tom in Corpus Christi and myself, Virginia. We're already checked in, so we can forego that for the moment. And next is round 4, any and all. Anybody, anywhere, any mode, any place, mobile, at home. If you want to check into Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. All right, well, let's get started. So we'll begin with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have any announcements for the net, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, thank you, Tony, and go ahead with your announcement.
Well, first, a quick other note. Although this is not the VHF contest, if you like 6 meters, I've gotten Honduras, Costa Rica, and Cuba in the past 2 minutes, so there is kind of an opening going on. If you're not interested in 6 meters, but you'd rather participate in local nets where you can hear a lot better, well, we have stuff for you. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on the movie Upstream Colors from 2013, a science fiction film by Shane Carruth of Primer fame, or perhaps infamy. There will be a meeting on the air tomorrow on this repeater at 7 p.m., but there is no Racy's training net tomorrow due to Father's Day. So talk as long as you want on the meeting on the air. Have fun. Enjoy. There will be a GeekNet this Monday at 7 p.m. Anything that you like to geek out about is welcome. Moths, chrome-plated superchargers, bring it on. And finally, there will be a surprise net on Monday, June 29th. What will it be about? I don't have a clue. Please send your surprising ideas to NT5TM at W5FC. Oh, and I guess I should add, don't forget about Field Day coming up very shortly. NT5TM.
NT5TM, NV5F. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate the announcements, and yes, I am very looking forward to Field Day next week. Let's see. Oh, next, here's the regular announcement. AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Group. This has a lot to do with astronomy and satellite space and stuff, so we like to announce it on here. AMSAT has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you can check into the National AMSAT net. You can learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites. You will need Echolink installed, and you'll need to be registered on Echolink. You can find the net under Groups and then *AMSAT*. Also, a live audio link of this net is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There's also 2 local nets available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others who are checked into the net. The AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone 110.9. On Tuesdays. Tom in 5HYP is the usual net control, and all are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month, however, is DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT Net East that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL tone 110.9, positive offset. All right. Well, speaking of nets, there's lots of nets on this repeater. I am not going to read them all, but you just heard Tony mention the Geek Net. Every Monday night we have some kind of a cool net, and this week happens to be the week with Geek Net. Geek Net is this Monday, Geek Out Beyond Ham Radio. We expand topics to include computers, science, space, news of the weird, and much more. I just got back a couple weeks ago from the Short Circuit 40th Anniversary Celebration in Astoria, Oregon, and that's probably what I'll talk about on GeekNet. No topic is off limits, just as long as it's geeky. Tony, NT5TM, is the net control. And on the fifth week, when we have a fifth week, we have a surprise net. It can be anything cool. It's always a surprise. Okay, let's see. Saturday night is the night of nets. That's tonight. We start with our tech net at 7, and then we have a break for an hour, and then at 9 we have Skynet, and then if you're crazy and want to stay up late with some of the rest of us, we do Afterglow movie net at 10:30. We talk about the movie, science fiction movie. Tony mentioned that. It's called Upstream Color. I tried to watch it. It was too crazy for me, so I'll just be listening to everybody else talk about it. And we got all kinds of, we got traffic nets on here every week, every night at 6:30. We have the ARRL early traffic net. So yeah, join us. There's nets a lot of nights here. If you want to see the complete schedule of nets, go on W5FC.org and click on the tab about nets. Speaking of Afterglow movies, it is time for tonight's very in detail synopsis, Afterglow movie info by our Afterglow leader, Tom, KE5ICX. Take it away, Tom.
But this time this week I run the bridge. I must have no life. At any rate, here it is. Tonight's Afterglow info. Chris awoke. It had been a difficult night, and this was just the latest of one of a series of difficult nights. A week earlier, was it just a week? She'd watched the movie Primer, and now she was drawing diagrams of multi-looping time travel, circles inside of circles on what used to be a plain piece of paper, but no more. Even the looping wasn't enough. She also started folding the pages inside of each other, looking for meaning from the cryptic circles, but it was no use. The movie was as elusive as it was upon the first viewing, maybe even more so now. A man walked up to her and offered her a pet worm. Cute little thing. It sang songs, smiled a lot, and offered her an answer to her problem, understanding this unexplainable movie. Chris dropped into a slumber, this time with newfound worm knowledge. When she awoke, she started frantically writing about it on Facebook. Even the worm tried to help her, but it was to no avail. No one believed the true account of Primer. The worm had her where he needed her. So join us for what we've described from Primer director Shane Curran, who also appears in this film, did the music, produced, and directed Upstream Color from 2013. And believe it or not, you may or may not, is considered one of the best sci-fi movies of 2013 and one that you've never seen. So I watched it. I've been thinking about it since yesterday. I watched it. I've written notes, and I found it quite fascinating. One of the most unusual films I have ever watched. So come on by. You don't have to have seen the film. Just listen in and make your comments about it. What you think. Back to you, Virginia. This is KE5. Oh, I want to mention one other thing. I'm sorry. Remember, on June 27th, that's Field Day next week, this Saturday, I'm going to be in Dallas. Very excited about that. We have at 10:30 p.m. our Field Day movie, Back to the Future from 1985. So if you like to take a break from operating for an hour and a half or two, come on by and enjoy this classic sci-fi comedy with other hams. We've done this every year for a number of years. So just remember, where we're going, we don't need roads. Well, maybe Valley View Lane, but that's it. That's at YMCA Johnson Outpost at 3325 Valley View Lane in Farmers Branch. That's from 10:30 p.m. to midnight. Go to the W5FC.org website for additional information for field day. Come on by. You don't have to operate with us if you're doing another site, but come on by and enjoy the movie. Bring popcorn. We'll also have snacks, too. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, Lord, there's so many snacks. Please come and eat some snacks. I believe we're also going to plan to operate this net from the field day site next Saturday. So that's always a hoot. We're already making plans. Okay, and I will look forward to that. Okay, you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. We currently have the following people checked in. Let's see if we have any more checked in via the spreadsheet. Yeah, we've got a couple more. We have KB5OF, Clay and Mesquite, and AC5BC, Cecil and Mesquite. He also checked in over the air. So appreciate those additional check-ins for our electronic check-ins. And I'll now take additional voice check-ins from any mode. If you would like to check into Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Hello, this is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, transmitting mobile out of South Irving, and this is Papa Alpha Tango, Pat.
All right, so we've added WN5RNY Pat. He's mobile. Thank you for coming back and getting on the list, Pat. Appreciate having you here for the net. And happy travels. All right, next we're on to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. And let's see, I guess Chaz is out. So, Tom, it looks like are you Chaz tonight?
Yes, indeed I am. He asked me to go ahead and do this. He has a Father's Day event tomorrow, and he said that they were taking him out to dinner tonight. So we have no Chaz. But we do have his jokes. You can consider that a plus or a minus. KE5ICX. I'll be happy to give his information.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right, this is it. On June 26, 2026 is the next TAS meeting, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and is also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Senthil Nagapan from we don't know where, it says. Their topic is sharing astronomy through public observing sessions and educational programs. The TAS hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in the area as well. Skynet was picked on Saturday night, so there would be an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing sessions. This is the third Saturday of the month, and stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Do we have anyone on at the site stargazing and would like to talk about or make a report? Ham radio operator at Cedar Hill, please come now if you'd like to give a report. Oh, one of these days we'll get folks out there. I know there's several hams out there tonight, but we'll see. Check the TAS website. That's texasastronaut.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Tom, for doing an excellent job being Chaz tonight. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you a couple more times. Next, we have National Space Society events and activities with the Bill Byram, N5BB. Go ahead with your announcement, Bill.
Hi, Virginia. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I'm finally back home after a 3-week vacation and seeing various hams in other states, etc., etc. Unfortunately, I will be away next Saturday, so somebody else will have to read my script. So I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a space-faring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. Our next chapter meeting will be in about 3 weeks on Sunday, July the 12th. The topic will be Roman the Stars by Cynthia, N5TFB, and Dietrich, KF5L, Wissenon. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is slated to launch no later than May 2027, with the team aiming for as early as fall of 2026, later this year. The observatory will survey the infrared skies to provide transformative science on astrophysics, cosmology, and exoplanets. With its wide field instrument, Roman will have a field of view about 100 to 200 times larger than James Webb Space Telescope and Hubble, and will conduct Hubble-quality science 1,000 times faster. With its coronagraph instrument, Roman telescope will demonstrate next-generation technology for the first time ever in space to directly image exoplanets, paving the way for future missions to image Earth-like planets in search for life. And by the way, stay tuned for the next section in this net for more about space telescopes. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. Yes, you can come by. 7 people attended the May event. And one of those was a visitor who joined our group, our chapter in National Space Society later. The next Space Rendezvous event will be held on Friday, June 26th, always the last Friday of the month, unless there's a major holiday, like Christmas. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. ISDC 2026 occurred earlier this month in Virginia, near Washington, D.C., and I attended. I actually drove there. I'll report more details about this conference in 2 weeks during the Skynet session on July the 4th. The ISDC 2027 will be in Los Angeles, near the LAX airport, and it will be in late May of next year. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, that's November 5, Bravo, Bravo, at my QRZ-listed email address, or at space@byram.net. That's all I got, Virginia. This is N5DD. Back to net.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Appreciate the announcement, and we'll look forward to your report on IOCDC in a couple of weeks. This is Virginia in D5F. I am your net control for Skynet this evening, and as that is the case, it falls to me to come up with a very good discussion topic of the evening, and as Bill hinted, my topic does have to do with the Space Telescope. This is about NASA's efforts to save the Swift Space Telescope, and I found this a surprise when I found this story, and there was a couple of articles regarding this topic, so I'm just going to read both of these. So the first one is from late May. It's NASA is hatching a fast-paced plan to boost this space telescope, but first they'll have to find it. This article is written by Mike Wall. It was in space.com, and the sort of subtitle here is, "It's getting to be crunch time for a groundbreaking satellite rescue mission." Okay, a private spacecraft called Link is set to lift off late next month to meet up with NASA's Neil Gehrels Swift Observatory, which launched to low Earth orbit in 2004 to hunt for powerful space explosions known as gamma-ray bursts. Swift is still working just fine, but atmospheric drag is pulling it down at an ever-increasing rate, and the telescope is powerless to resist it. It doesn't have a propulsion system. Link will be the scope's savior. If all goes to plan, meeting up with Swift in LEO and boosting it to a higher altitude. The plan is bold and unprecedented. Link, built by Arizona-based Katalyst Space Technologies, aims to become the first private spacecraft ever to capture a robotic satellite operated by the U.S. government. Doing so will not be easy, especially since it's unclear where exactly Swift will be in the coming months. That's because Earth's atmosphere, and therefore the drag it imposes on orbiting spacecraft, is not static. Our blanket of air expands when the sun is active and contracts during times of solar quiescence. Solar activity waxes and wanes on an 11-year cycle, the most recent of which peaked in 2024. That intense round of space weather put the Swift team on notice. Modeling work performed in early 2025 predicted that the telescope would re-enter the atmosphere by the summer of 2026. The dire prognosis laid the groundwork for Link's rescue mission, which NASA funded via a $30 million contract with Katalyst. The modeling work continued too, as NASA and the company flesh out their fast-paced plan to raise Swift's orbit. These predictions evolve over time, based on space weather forecasts and other factors like Swift's current height and orientation. Michael Shoemaker, Deputy Flight Dynamics Lead in SSMO, Space Science Missions Operations, at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, said on May 26th. Shoemaker and his team aren't doing this just for Swift. They make such predictions for a variety of satellites, both active and defunct. Their models incorporate a wide range of data, including details from each satellite team, tracking information collected by the U.S. Space Force, and solar activity research from NASA and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Space Weather. Shoemaker and his colleagues are now generating weekly orbital predictions for Swift, which the team has used to make decisions about when to halt science observations and how to steer the spacecraft to reduce drag as much as possible, NASA officials said in their same statement. This innovative new approach to operating Swift has allowed them to successfully slow its orbital decay, they added. As a result, Swift will likely stay at least 185 miles or 300 kilometers above Earth, a critical altitude giving Link's orbit-boosting missions the best chance of success, according to NASA, into early fall. That's good news, but the modeling team still has work to do. We're also working on predictions for where Swift will be when Link is set to launch in June aboard a Northrop Grumman Pegasus rocket. Russell Carpenter, the Deputy Project Manager in SSMO, said in the same statement. The Project Reboost Swift has generated intense interest across the flight dynamics community, he added. The Swift team is grateful that so many people have been willing to pitch in to help with refining these predictions. And then next is this follow-up, which was out, I think, yesterday. And this one is titled, No One Thought It Was Going to Be Possible. A space telescope is falling out of space. This is NASA's daring plan to save it. This is by Tariq Malik, and it's also on space.com. And this is Dateline, Wallops Island, Virginia. For over 20 years, NASA's Swift Space Observatory has been conducting prolific science in orbit, hunting for signs of gamma-ray bursts, the most powerful explosions in the universe. Now it's falling to Earth, doomed to a fiery death by the end of the year as its orbit decays. But maybe not. NASA, it turns out, has a daring rescue mission in the works, something never before attempted in space, the Swift Boost mission. The endeavor calls for an untested spacecraft built by the Arizona company Katalyst Space Technologies to rendezvous and dock with Swift, something the observatory was never designed to do, before the observatory falls back to Earth. If all goes well, Katalyst Space Tug, it's called Link, will lift the Swift Observatory into a higher, safer orbit, one that will add years of life to the aging Space Telescope's mission. Liftoff is officially set for June 27th. Hey, that's field day. With Link launching on the last ever Pegasus XL rocket, an air-launched booster built by Northrop Grumman. Frankly, I have to be honest, no one thought it was going to be possible. Sean Domagal-Goldman, NASA's Astrophysics Division Director, told reporters here on Wednesday, June 17th, no one thought we would get as far as we've already gotten today. It was just in September of 2025 that NASA picked Katalyst to build a spacecraft capable of boosting Swift on a budget of $30 million. That was 9 months ago, and now the finished Link spacecraft, with its 3 robotic arms, 3 main Hall thrusters, and a suite of other instruments, is packed aboard its Pegasus XL rocket and tucked on the belly of its L-1011 Stargazer carrier plane for a trip to its launch site in South Pacific's Kwajalein Atoll. Oh boy, I don't know if I said that right. In the last 9 months, we have gone from a clean sheet to a spacecraft that is currently integrated on a rocket on an airplane ready to go to Kwaj for launch, said Kieran Wilson, Link's principal investigator at Katalyst Space. On Wednesday, this is an absolutely unprecedented development timeline for this program. Yet the Swift timeline, if you will, is essential if NASA is to rescue the Swift Space Observatory. NASA originally launched Swift, its full name is the Neil Gehrels Swift Observatory, after its late principal investigator in 2004 on a $250 million mission to search the sky for gamma-ray bursts and other high-energy astrophysics phenomena in the cosmos. From its original orbit, about 375 miles or 600 kilometers above Earth, Swift was a silent sentinel, ready to quickly pivot to new targets with unprecedented speed. Swift was designed to study gamma-ray bursts, short-lived flashes of high-energy light that release more energy in just a few seconds than the sun will in its entire lifetime. Swift principal investigator Brad Senko told reporters Wednesday, it's been extremely successful in this regard, detecting over 2,000 of these sources all the way out to the edge of the visible universe. It was Swift that helped scientists confirm without a doubt that the heaviest elements we know of, including the shiny gold and platinum in the jewelry you're wearing right now, were forged by these explosive cosmic events, Senko said. Swift was expected to last 2 years in orbit. It's well into its second decade now, and still in good health. Well, except for that falling out of space part. You see, Swift doesn't have thrusters or a propulsion system of any kind, and over the years an increase in solar activity, space weather from the sun, has puffed up Earth's atmosphere to create more drag on Swift than expected, pulling it down from its initial orbit. Last year, the Swift mission team realized the Space Telescope was falling faster than expected. Without a rescue mission, Swift would crash to Earth by the end of the summer. It was okay for a generic spacecraft to come out of orbit, Donegal Goldman said, but this was just not just any spacecraft. This is an observatory with unique capabilities for astrophysics. It is a Swift observatory that can quickly pivot across the night sky to find things that go boom in the night. So we decided, yeah, we want to go save this one this time because of how special it is, he added. A lot has to go right for Katalyst Link spacecraft to rescue Swift. The 937-pound spacecraft will launch into an initial testing orbit on June 27th and perform a series of checkouts to ensure that its basic systems, 3 main engines, 16 reaction control thrusters, solar arrays, and robotic arms are all working properly. We'll have a commissioning period of a few weeks, after which we will begin maneuvers in order to approach the Swift Space Telescope, Wilson said. Once Link reaches Swift's orbit, it will perform a series of proximity operations, dock, and then raise the Space Observatory to its initial orbit over a period of several months. If that goes to plan, Swift could be back performing science by this fall, Senko said. The telescope has been in a low power mode to preserve what orbit it can since February. If Link is successful, Swift could get another 5 or more years of life in space. Link, meanwhile, will detach and be intentionally deorbited, meaning it will fall to Earth on purpose to end its mission. All this is challenging and risky, Wilson said. There's a lot of spacecraft that have had far longer development cycles with far more funding behind them that have failed for mundane reasons. A lot of simple things can go wrong. For example, the solar arrays on Link might malfunction, Wilson said. Swift has been in orbit for so long its protective insulation blankets may be as brittle as glass and break when Link's robotic arms grab on, he added. And then there's the sun. It was increased solar activity that put Swift in its perilous situation. The activity is ongoing. In fact, Swift may be one big solar storm away from doom if the sun fires off a major storm before Katalyst Link can reach it. Swift is on track to fall below an altitude of 186 miles by October. At that point, it may be too low for Link to reach the observatory. A surprise solar storm could accelerate the fall, but NASA remains hopeful. At the moment, we think we have several months where Swift will be at a sufficiently high altitude to give Katalyst folks a great chance to capture and boost us, Senko said. Katalyst is banking on the future need for spacecraft servicing and life extension in space. This week, the company raised $12 million in funding to develop an even more capable spacecraft called Nexus, which it plans to expand satellite servicing to multi-orbit, multi-mission operations. Over the last decade or so, we've gotten very good at launching things into space, said Robert Lamontagne, Katalyst Vice President for Strategic Partnerships. Katalyst is here really to kind of demark the end of that throwaway model and the start of a new model. The first test flight of a Nexus mission could launch in 2027. Its target, a U.S. Space Force satellite called Rooster, in geostationary orbit, 22,236 miles above Earth, much higher than the Swift Observatory. That Nexus will launch atop an Ariane 6 rocket next year. Okay, so this is a good story. It might be good for me to maybe do a follow-up on it on the next Skynet that I run in a couple of weeks, just to see how things have gone. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? If you do, please come now with your call sign. All right, well, thank you for listening, and this is Virginia in V5F, Skynet Net Control, and now it is time for What's Up, normally with Chaz, but tonight we have Tom, K5ICX.
Well, thank you, Virginia. Yeah, I guess I'm on a lot tonight, and thank you for doing the net as well. Chaz supplies a slideshow. If you want to see it, you can go to w5fc.org. This includes this segment and of What's Up in the Sky and our constellations. There are two of them this week, so you can watch the stream. You can go to YouTube, DARC, Skynet. This is two things together will yield the live link. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. He says, slide number 2. He called this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's what has gone on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. He says he's talked about the predicted nova. You've heard this before. Star teeny corona borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at brightness around 10th magnitude. It is much too faint to be seen with just your two eyes. It was supposed to go nova more than a year and a half ago. A recent prediction has going nova on November 10th, 2025. That didn't happen. So another prediction is on June 25th, 2026, just in a few days, plus or minus a few days. But when it does go nova, expect it to be as bright as the North Star, which is a second magnitude star. And he says, I can see the North Star with just my eyes from a very light-polluted location in Mesquite. .com. The large sunspot solar eclipse complexities on the sun are so large at times that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. I still have mine. In fact, they're sitting right here on the desk from 2017. They made it through 2 moves, and I still have them right here at the ready. I presented information on the solar cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet, he says. Next up is moon phases. On June 14th is a new moon. The current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. I saw that this morning. On June 21st, the moon is at its first quarter phase. On June 28th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is farthest from the Earth, at a distance of 406,265 kilometers. On June 29th, the moon is full. Third quarter is on July 7th. And on July 13th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 359,000 kilometers. New moon is on July 14th. And he asked the big question, did you see it? On Wednesday afternoon, June 17th, there was a daytime occultation of Venus by the moon. He's got a representation of what that would have looked like. The disappearance of Venus behind the moon happened at 14:18 Central Daylight, and a reappearance of Venus happened at 15:34 Central Daylight time. This probably would have been interesting to see. I missed it. Next up, on June 21st, the Northern Hemisphere summer equinox is at 3:34 Central Daylight time. Welcome to summer, everyone. Next up is June 23rd, 2026, is a conjunction of the moon and Spica in the southwestern evening sky. On June 24th, the conjunction of Jupiter and Mercury is in the northwestern evening sky. Now on to meteor showers. On the night of June 26th, 27th, peak of the June Bootes meteor shower should produce from 0 up to 100 meteors in an hour. Usually the best time to observe meteors is the hour before dawn because this is the side of the Earth that is running into the debris left behind by a comet or an asteroid. If you want to get more information on meteors or meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Association at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. On June 27th, this conjunction of Moon and Antares is in the southwestern morning sky. Then on July 2nd, conjunction of the moon and Pluto in the morning southern sky. Now, he has his question here. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need to fill on any information, or you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question. And be aware, I have a tendency to lie accidentally. So any questions you ask may be wrong. But go ahead and ask if you'd like. Please come with your call. All right, you're wise enough to know not to ask me any questions. So we'll go ahead and give Chaz his sign-off on this segment. So as the moon wanes, so do these words from a segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only ones where humans live. Until next time, actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. So keep looking up so you know what's up. Back to you, Virginia, KE5, ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Appreciate you reading Chaz's stuff this evening. And this is Virginia in V5F, Skynet Net Control. And next we have Gus, W5GUS, with space exploration and space history.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. This is space exploration news. We'll start with something that happened on June the 11th. The European Space Agency announced the extension of 13 active space science missions, including the Solar Orbiter and Mars Express. This ensures that these highly successful missions can continue to collect vital data and contribute to our understanding of the solar system and the universe beyond. All right, and June 13th, the high-resolution satellite imagery released by Maxar Technologies clearly showed Boeing's Starliner spacecraft docked at the International Space Station. These images taken from an orbiting satellite provide a rare and detailed perspective of the commercial crew vehicle during its historic first crewed flight test. All right, and China's Chang'e 6 mission achieved a major milestone by successfully transferring the first ever samples collected from the far side of the moon from the lander to the return capsule in lunar orbit. This complex maneuver brings the mission one step closer to returning these unique geological materials to Earth for detailed scientific analysis. Okay, and on June 18th, astronomers reported witnessing the awakening of a massive black hole in real time within the galaxy. SD, SS1335, etc. The galaxy suddenly began to shine significantly brighter as the black hole started actively consuming surrounding gas for the first time in recorded history, providing a unique opportunity to study the birth of an active galactic nucleus. All right, we will move to space-related birthdays. First up is Liu Yang. It was June 16th, 1978. And Liu made history as the first Chinese woman to travel into space during the Shenzhou 9 mission in 2012. She performed various medical experiments and tested the docking capabilities of the Tiangong 1 Space Lab. Okay. And looks like June 20th, Brian Duffy was born, 1953. He's a ham, N5WQW. He's a retired NASA astronaut who flew on 4 space shuttle missions, serving as commander for the final 2. His missions focused on atmospheric research and the construction of the International Space Station. All right, June 20th, 1941, Ulf Morboyd was born. 1941, he became the first West German citizen in space and the first non-American to fly on a NASA mission. He conducted numerous microgravity experiments during his 3 missions to the Space Shuttle and the Mir Space Station. Okay, June 21st, 1958, Gennady Padalka was born. Is a veteran cosmonaut who formerly held a world record for most cumulative time spent in space. He has commanded the International Space Station multiple times and conducted numerous spacewalks through his career. All right, and next up is on June 21st, 1964, Oleg Kononenko was born. He currently holds the world record for the most total time spent in space, surpassing 1,000 days in 2024. He has served as a commander of the International Space Station and is a key figure in the Russian space program. All right, that was the last birthday to celebrate, so we'll move on to this week in space history. June 15th, 1985, the Soviet Vega 2 spacecraft flew by Venus, deploying a lander and a research balloon into the planet's atmosphere. The balloon provided data on wind patterns and temperatures, while the lander analyzed soil before succumbing to extreme conditions. Vega 2 later continued to intercept Comet Halley, showcasing Soviet ingenuity and planetary exploration. Okay, June 16, 1963, Valentina Tereshkova became launched aboard a Vostok 6, becoming the first woman to orbit the Earth. She spent nearly 3 days in space, completing 48 orbits and gathering critical data on the effects of spaceflight on the female body. Tereshkova remains the only woman to have flown a solo space mission and continues to be an influential figure in space advocacy. All right, back in June 19th, 1976, NASA's Viking 1 became the first U.S. spacecraft to orbit Mars, aiming to find a safe landing site for its lander. The orbiter captured detailed images of Mars, revealing volcanoes, canyons, riverbeds that reshaped our understanding of the planet. Viking 1 operated for over 4 years, laying the groundwork for future Mars missions. Okay, June 18th also, but in 1983, Sally Ride launched on the Space Shuttle Challenger, becoming the first American woman in orbit. She operated the shuttle robotic arm to deploy and retrieve satellites, inspiring generations of women in STEM. Ride also contributed to investigations of the Challenger and Columbia disasters and championed science education until her death in 2012. All right, and the last item this week is Spaceship One, designed by Burt Rutan Scaled Composites back in June 21st, 2004, became the first privately funded aircraft to reach space. Pilot Mike Meville crossed the Kármán line, winning the $10 million Ansari X Prize and proving private companies could develop space flight technology. This success paved the way for today's commercial space industry. And with that, we will return to net control and look forward for some nice jokes. Back to you, Virginia, NV5F from W5GUS.
Okay, thank you, Gus. Appreciate the good stories and history this week. And hats off to Oleg Kononenko for being the guy who's been in space the most days. I think I found that the most interesting of all of it. Very cool. And we're making pretty good time, so I'm going to check for further check-ins. Let me check the spreadsheet. And it looks like we don't have any new additions over there. But if there's anyone else who would like to get added to the list for Skynet this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, all is quiet out there. So next we do have Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This is normally read by Chaz, KF5JJ, but we'll have Tom, KU5ICX, do that in his place. And also, Tom, if you want to finish up by continuing with the last couple items after this, you are welcome to do that. So take it away, Tom, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Yeah, I get to do my regular segments, too. Just to let everyone know, don't forget that there is a replica of Spaceship One, full-scale replica at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. So if you want to see what that looks like, that pioneering spacecraft is there. And directly below it is the Apollo 7 command module from the 1968 flight to test out the command module that would eventually take man to the moon. Okay, this is what we have. The script, here we go. By the way, you can follow along on the slideshow. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. She contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen in North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition with a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Tonight's constellations, plural, this week are Bootes, the Shepherd, and Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. Bootes represents a shepherd or herdsman. Most people think it looks like a kite or an ice cream cone, a double dip cone from Brahms' Sounds right about now. There is, the next slide here, it says here, there is one very bright star in Bootes, Arcturus, which is the fourth brightest star in the sky. You can find Arcturus by using the handle of the Big Dipper, follow the curve of the arc of the handle, and you will run into Arcturus. Other interesting stars are in Bootes are Izar, Epsilon Bootes, Alpha Lurup, that's Bootes, Kappa Bootes, Acelius Tertuus, and Z Bootes. I will concentrate on the deep sky objects, though. Let's see. Next up, it says, the first object of deep sky objects is NGC 5466. This is 9.2 arc seconds in size and has a brightness of 9.1 magnitude, pretty dim. It is a globular cluster that is small and faint. It requires a large aperture telescope to resolve properly. It looks like a fuzzball in an 8-inch to 10-inch telescope. It is a challenge object to find in binoculars. The challenge for this week is to try and observe NGC 5466 with binoculars. I would suggest a pair of 20 by 80 binoculars in dark skies. We're going to have some trouble getting that in Dallas, but you never know. Slide 18 says, next object is NGC 5248, which is a barred spiral galaxy, magnitude 10.3. Smaller telescopes under 8 inches can see it, but only as a weak glow. With little to no structure visible, Stephen James O'Meara was able to spy this 10 magnitude galaxy with 7 by 35 binoculars from Hawaii at an elevation of 4,200 feet. But it took much time and effort to do so. It is usually easy to see some structure in this galaxy with a 10-inch telescope from the Texas Star Party. In his entry for the galaxy in his book, The Caldwell Objects, Stephen J. O'Meara writes that the Barbara Wilson saw a beautiful structure with the arms revealing many small knots in her 20-inch telescope. That was probably at the Texas Star Party. So we had a celebrity and a recording of it. Galaxy that requires a larger size telescope to resolve. This is a very challenging object to locate. It looks like a faint fuzzy patch in an 8-inch telescope in dark skies. You begin to see some detail in a 12-inch or larger. You might be able to notice NGC 5660, a separate spiral galaxy nearby, looking very similar, dim and fuzzy. Now, unfortunately, comes the jokes of the week. And here we go with the first one. I went to the dentist and he said, I need a crown. So I thought, recognition at last. Why is the detective excited when he found a thimble-sized crown? He was looking for fingerprints. Prints? Get it? Me neither. What do you call the queen of cows? Crowned beef. A tornado tore through Miss Oklahoma's vegetable patch the day after she was crowned Miss America. She actually got world peas. Oh boy. What did the court jester call the balding crown prince? Oh. Everybody ready? The heir apparent with no hair apparent. All lives begin with a crowning achievement. Yay. Okay, let's move on. This is slide 21 if you're just keeping notes. Corona Borealis is the northern crown. It could be considered a scoop of ice cream that has fallen off the ice cream cone of Booties. But as a crown, Gemma or Alphecca is the brightest star in the Corona Borealis. It is the gem star of the crown. Alphecca is a spectroscopic binary star that's about 75 light years away. A smaller yellow star orbits around the white primary and partially eclipses it, causing a slight reduction in Alphecca's brightness at about 1/10 magnitude. Sigma Coronae Borealis and Zeta Coronae Borealis are very similar double stars that have a brighter member and a dimmer secondary member. Our Corona Borealis hosts two well-known variable stars, and both are examples of a particular class of variables that each represents. Our Coronae is a prototype for a rare group of variable stars which shine at a maximum throughput or throughout most of their cycle, shining about 6th magnitude most of the time. However, at irregular intervals, it will quickly dim to somewhere between 7th and 15th magnitude, usually hovering around 12.5, with the brightness fluctuating erratically during the minimum. T Corona Borealis is the other famous variable star, also known as the blaze star. T Corona Borealis is a recurrent nova. Normally it shines at about 10th magnitude, but when it has erupted in the past, it reaches near naked visibility. 2 eruptions have been recorded, one in 1866, where it reached 2nd magnitude, and again in 1946, where it reached magnitude 3.2. In both cases, the star's brightness fell off quickly after the initial outburst, falling below naked eye visibility in about 7 to 8 days. Next, it's slide 23. NGC 6085 and 6086, these are 2 galaxies, can both fit in the same eyepiece field of view at a low to medium power. NGC 6085 is a face-on spiral galaxy shining at a dim magnitude 14.3, boy, almost invisible. NGC 6086 is a magnitude 12.8 elliptical galaxy. Neither of these galaxies can be seen in an 8-inch telescope. And this is KE5ICX standing in for Chaz, who's out having Father's Day dinner tonight. Next up is slide 24. There are a few more astronomically observing program objects in the constellation Boötes, the Shepherd, and Corona Borealis, the Northern Cloud. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 objects in the observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. And that is Miss Caroline's constellation, the Leap, Boötes, the Shepherd, and Corona Borealis, the Northern Cloud. I'd like to thank Chaz's friends, Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell, for their research and words on the very deep sky objects, and I've used, borrowed, and stolen for every Skynet. I also use, at times, the website constellationguide.com for information. Next week, we'll take a look at Lupus the Wolf. Ow! And this is KE5. He says good night, but I have another segment, so hang in there. Here we go. Let me take a little break here for a second. Just for this week, let's see, we have some to be determined. It says, I'm not sure. Hold on just a second here. I think there's an old hangers on here. Here we go. We have June 21st, Starlink 17-28 launch from Vandenberg. This is the 24 Starlink V2 being optimized satellite for the launch into low Earth orbit. That's at 7 a.m. That's tomorrow morning. Then we have Starfall demo. This is pretty cool. I've read about this. June 23rd. This will launch from SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral in Florida. SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch a demo mission with its new re-entry vehicle called Starfall. Documents filed with the Federal Aviation Administration describe Starfall as a cylindrical-shaped capsule approximately 2.5 feet tall with a diameter of 10.2 feet, weighing approximately 4,600 pounds and capable of carrying 2,200 pounds of payload for a weight of 6,800 pounds. SpaceX requested to perform 2 Starfall re-entries in the Pacific Ocean, but it's unclear if 2 spacecraft will be launched on this mission. So this will be interesting. It allows for a manual re-entry. As we get into the larger and larger Starship flights, there'll be a need for re-entry capsules for vehicles that are already in orbit. This is a way of doing it, so it should be very interesting. There's a video on it. We may even talk about it on a Skynet some evening. July 2nd, an Atlas V launch of Leo Atlas 08. This is from the SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. The United United Launch Alliance's Atlas V rocket will launch batch 29 Amazon LEO satellites into low Earth orbit. This is the 9th and final Atlas V rocket that the tech giant booked to launch its broadband internet satellites. So that's the end of that. Alpha, to be determined, is coming up. Alpha Flight A008, this is from Vandenberg. Firefly Aerospace Alpha rocket will launch on a mission for a yet unannounced customer. This will be a debut of the Block 2 iteration of the rocket, which features larger liquid oxygen tanks in both the first and second stages, increasing overall length of the rocket by 2 meters. So we don't know exactly when that launch will be, or even the customer. Crazy, huh? Next up is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and this is, we concentrate on the 2 space stations. We have the ISS and Tiangong, both of which are populated with astronauts and tachyonauts. We have the International Space Station tomorrow morning, minus 3.6 magnitude at 4:22 a.m. It'll come out of shadow and it'll be at its highest point at 65 degrees, and it'll fall to the northeast at 4:25. Next is, let's see, June 22nd, the following day, 3:36 a.m., minus 1.6 of magnitude out of the east. We reach its highest point at 25 degrees at 3:36, and it'll fall to the northeast at 3:37. And then on the 22nd, minus 1.2 magnitude, 5:09 in the morning. This one will reach 14 degrees at 5:11, and it'll fall to the north at 5:13. And then finally, June 24th, minus 1.6 magnitude at 3:36 in the morning out of the north. It reaches its highest point at 3:36, 25 degrees, and it'll fall to the north-northeast. Now, all of these are good passes, but they're kind of midway in the sky, so they won't go from horizon to horizon, but you will at least be able to see them make partial passes with bright magnitude. Tiangong has several passes that look pretty good. We have June 22nd, minus 1.1 magnitude at 5:08 a.m. This will reach its highest point at 5:10, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 5:13. Our next great pass is June 23rd, 5:44 a.m. out of the west-southwest, reach its highest point at 58 degrees at 5:47, and it'll fall to the northeast at 5:50. So that's a pretty good one. The best one, however, is June 24th, minus 2.2 magnitude at 4:47 a.m. Now, this is a partial pass at 51 degrees, but it does reach very high at 4:47.46 at 73 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 4:50. So those are all really good passes. You can get additional information by going to heavensabove.com, plugging in your longitude and latitude, or if you want to, you can put in your nearest city to you, and it will give you personalized Kepler information as to any and all passes, including amateur radio satellites, which is pretty cool. So you don't need to carry an app or anything with you unless you want to. You can get all this information off the website. There's also a lot of other interesting things, including virtualization of the International Space Station in orbit and its orientation and all the vehicles on board, 3D astronomical maps, a whole bunches of new things that are there that you should really check out if you've never gone to Heavens Above, and that's with a dash in between, so it's heavens with a hyphen above.com. Try it sometime. Probably should do a presentation on that website. It has grown immensely since the last time we talked about it in detail. So that's it for me. Back to you, Virginia. This is KE5 ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I appreciate you doing 3 segments in a row. And Heavens Above does have a pretty nice app. I've used it over the years for amateur satellites, and it works pretty well on just getting the most basic information to see a satellite path or to operate amateur satellites as well. So I I do recommend the Heavens Above app. All right, well, I checked the spreadsheet. It doesn't look like we have any new people. Brian K9AHO also checked in there, but he had checked in over the air. Are there any final check-ins who would like to get on the list for Skynet before we finish the net this evening? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Hello, hello. This is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey. This is Pat, Papa Alpha Tango, transmitting mobile from South Irving. I'm rechecking because the first time I checked in, I think you got my call sign wrong. But anyway, thanks for setting up the net, and I'll sit back and enjoy.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I appreciate your clarification. I have Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Yankee. Is that correct?
No, that's Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey. So instead of the Y, put a W.
Okay, thank you. I've got it now. I appreciate you coming back with a correction on that. And thank you for joining us for Skynet this evening. I appreciate it. I like to have new people find out about our net. All right. We have a little bit of time. We're actually making pretty good time this week. We have a couple minutes. Are there any questions for the net or anyone who has presented on the net before we finish up this evening? Please come now with your call sign.
W5GUS.
W5GUS, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. I probably missed it, but I was just wondering what caused the Swift Space Telescope to be in its current predicament there. Was there some kind of malfunction during the launch, or was this low Earth orbit planned? W5GUS.
Okay, well, there's a couple things. First off, that satellite was launched in 2004, and it was launched to a height of about 300 kilometers, and now it's at about half that height. So in the last 22 years, it has lowered its orbit, its altitude has been decreased due to drag by the fact that it is in low Earth orbit, and then also over the years, as the solar activity increases at times, it will cause the atmosphere to actually expand, and that will also cause more drag on the satellite. And the most recent solar cycle was pretty good. It was pretty high. We had a lot of activity, so the atmosphere caused more drag on the Swift satellites than they had originally maybe thought. The satellite's also well beyond its original intended lifespan, but it's done such a good job they want to continue its work because it's still functioning well. So instead of just letting it deorbit, that's what's caused them to decide they want to save it, and it is at a critical point where it's just about, I think it's about 185 miles up, which is just about at the limit before the drag will cause it to deorbit in a few months. So I hope that answers your question, and I appreciate the question. I think it was a good one. And we will now take any more questions or just any other parting shots for a 73 round. If anybody else has anything they want to add or ask, please come now with your call sign.
This is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey.
W5GUS recheck also.
RNW Pat, what do you got?
I was just curious. I'm relatively new with my general license, but how do you reach an amateur radio satellite? And when you do reach it, what do you get?
Well, that's a really good question, and the first thing I would always advise people to do if they want to find out what you get is to listen. There are quite a few amateur radio satellites, and the easiest ones to listen to are the FM satellites. You can listen to those with a Yagi, like a 2-meter 440 Yagi. Those FM satellites will usually have an uplink on one band and a downlink on the other, and so you just start practicing by going to a place like Heavens Above and learning about how satellite orbits work. Their orbits usually take them about 90 minutes because they're mostly low Earth orbit satellites, and they pass in about 10 or 12 minutes, and it's good to just practice listening. And what you get is a lot of operators on those satellites are just rapid-fire confirming contacts. They give each other grid squares, and they just practice using the satellites, getting in touch with each other, seeing if they can make a contact. I've done quite a few of them, and they're really fun once you get a little practice. So I hope that answers your question. You can do it with very minimal equipment. It doesn't take a whole lot. It's not terribly complicated, but it takes a little bit of time and practice. But the main thing you'll get is just a bunch of operators having fun exchanging grid squares. And when you get on the linear transponders, which actually are on about the similar frequencies as the FM ones, but they cover a broader bandwidth, and usually you'll use sideband or CW on those, and several conversations can go on one of those at one time, and that takes a whole different kind of practice. It's really good to have a good radio with full duplex and some pretty good tracking equipment and some rotators that are hooked up to your computer to help you track the satellite, so you don't have to try to do it by hand while you're moving up and down the bandwidth on the satellite. And that's a more advanced practice that you can get into if you've kind of done a little bit on the FM satellites. So if you go to amsat.org, that's a great place to start. That's the Amateur Radio Satellite Corporation. And then we have the 3 AMSAT nets in this area, and that one out of Houston, the National AMSAT net that's out of Houston, might be a good one to listen to if you're not from Dallas-Fort Worth area. But yeah, if you just go look up AMSAT and just get started with learning some of the basics of how satellite orbits work. But we do a lot of cool things. There's data satellites. There's ones that just send telemetry. I've been doing satellites for a few years. I'm kind of out of practice because I haven't done it very much in the last couple of years, but I've built a little antenna, and mine's real simple. I use 2 HTs, and one's on the uplink and the other one's on the downlink, and it's a little handheld antenna, and I can go out in my front yard and work satellites. It's really cool. Does that answer your question? And if so, please, any comments or other questions? ND5F.
Roger that. Appreciate the input. Give me a lot to look into. This is WN5RNW.
All right. Thank you, Pat, and I appreciate you stopping by Skynet this evening. Please join us any Saturday evening on this repeater at 9 o'clock if you're in the area. Okay, it looks like we have about, I'm going to say 19 hams participating in the net this evening. And that's a pretty good number for a summer when vacation time has started. Thank you all who have checked into this evening's Skynet. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls or send an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as on our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. We also have a Discord server. Until next Saturday night, this is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I'll be closing the net at 10:29 local and returning the repeater to normal amateur use for about 5 minutes until we fire up the...
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
Break. So thank you so much, and enjoy your evening discovering the universe. This is NV5F.
Hey, Virginia, W5GUS here. I didn't, thank you for that answer. I didn't realize it was launched in 2004. Thanks for that answer, W5GUS.
You're welcome, Gus. I appreciate the question. NV5F.
This is KE5ICX. We'll begin the Afterglow movie net upstream color from 2013 in 5 minutes. You got enough time to make some microwave popcorn and 1 minute to get back to the radio. 5 minutes. Started on the Afterglow Movie Net. The Afterglow Movie Net is every Saturday night at around 10:30 p.m. And we watch an assigned movie, and then we discuss it for about 90 minutes. So we'll see how it goes. This one is a little more of a challenge than other films we've done in the past. We've done great films. We've done okay films. We've done terrible films. In fact, the science fiction genre has a lot of terrible films out there. This one is heralded as a very good to great indie-type film. It's science fiction. And so it has its detractors, it has its supporters. It is generally considered a good film. So we get to do one of those, but it isn't the easiest thing to follow. Let me tell you about it, and then I'll tell you how this net works. It is Upstream Colors, a 2013 American experimental science fiction film written, directed, and produced, starring Shane Curran. The film is his second feature in his career, following his 2004 debut Primer, which was a really tough film. Some of the folks who have checked in on this net sat through. This film stars Amy Stamets, Andrew Sensing, and Iago Martins. I don't think I got those names right, but at any rate. In the film, behaviors of two people are unwittingly affected by a complex parasite that has a three-stage life cycle. Now, I'm going to read the plot to you. There's several paragraphs here. Listen carefully. This may help. If you already have seen the film, this actually may help as a recap. There's a lot going on in this film. The film begins with a man mentioned in the credits as Thief, who seems to be harvesting a type of larva for peculiar effects that it has on the human mind when ingested. At a club, Chris is tasered and kidnapped by the thief. He makes her swallow the larva, which induces a form of hypnotic susceptibility, causing an extremely suggestible mental state that thief exploits. He uses an elaborate set of distractions, such as getting her to create a paper chain where each link features a transcription from the book Walden to distract her while performing his mind control. He eventually manipulates her to liquidate her home equity, reveal to him a stash of valuable rare coins, and empty her bank account. Through hypnotic suggestion, Chris is prevented from consuming solid foods. She's allowed only to drink small amounts of water at regulated intervals, which she is compelled to perceive as extremely refreshing and delicious. Thief eventually releases Chris, who binges ravenously, I can't say the word tonight, and falls asleep in soiled clothes in her home. She awakens to find several large worms visibly crawling under her skin. She unsuccessfully attempts to remove them with a kitchen knife. Later, a pig farmer, an avid field recorder, that's audio, the sampler draws Chris to his farm using infrasonics. The sampler silently sets up a transfusion through which he transfers a worm from Chris's body into that of a young pig. Chris then awakens in an abandoned SUV on the freeway with no memory of these recent events. Upon arriving at her disordered house, she physically notices blood on her sheets and floors and considers calling the police. She realizes she has no information to tell them and stops doing. After cleaning up, she heads to work where she's promptly fired for her unexplained absence. A trip to the grocery store reveals that Chris and her personal funds are gone. A year later, Chris meets a man named Chaz, that's played by Shane, the director, on a train in Canada, taking several times before finally spending the night with each other. Afterwards, they realize they both have the aforementioned forgotten transfusion. They realized they had similar experiences. While his job as a broker due to shifting company funds around to cover money stolen from him, attributed the incident to drug abuse. At the same time, there's very clear to the audience that a parallel exists between the emotions of Chris and Chaz, as his feeling two things, one of which is the host of Chris's parasite, Chris mistakenly believes herself to be pregnant, and simultaneously counterpoint is actually pregnant. cancer she has killed is no longer a threat to her body, but it has rendered her fertile. The sampler finds the pig containing Chris's worm has now given birth to the piglets. He throws the piglets into a burlap sack and tosses them into a river. This event coincides with Jeff and Chris feeling an extreme sense of loss and frustration, and both act as if something terrible is happening to them. Jeff spontaneously picks a fight with two of his co-workers, while Chris frantically searches as if she's lost something. Two, in their panic state, reunite and travel to Chris's house, where they gather supplies, including a gun, and make camp in her bathroom's tub, expecting the worst. Meanwhile, the sack of piglets is seen rotting away, and a blue substance bursts from the piglets' open wounds, filling the surrounding waters from which orchids have emerged. The orchids eventually turn the same color blue and are collected by farmers who sell the plants in a neighborhood where the thief operates. These events seem to mark a change in the state of things. Chris and Jeff begin to remember each other's personal histories as their own. Jeff discovers Chris mumbling the text of Walden while swimming. It is while performing this ritual that Chris comes to sense things that the sampler has sensed, and it is this moment that the two start to piece together what happened to them both. In a dreamlike sequence, Chris, Jeff, and the sampler all sit at a table in a bare white room where Chris reveals to the sampler that she is aware of him. The sampler collapses from the apparent heart attack. The scene then cuts to a parallel shot in the pig farm where Chris shoots and kills the collapsed sampler. Chris and Jeff collect a box of written records detailing others who have similarly been drugged. They summon these other victims to the farm by sending them copies of Walden. The farm is thereafter remodeled and the pigs are better cared for. As a result, no more pigs are drowned, the orchids in the river no longer turn blue, and the thief is deprived of the larvae for his drug. The film ends with Chris cradling a baby pig at peace. And that's the end of the movie. There are only 4 characters, Chris, Jeff, the sampler, and the thief that are mentioned. Well, there are other characters, I guess. Those are the main cast. There's some ancillary characters with no words. This movie has very little in the way of actual dialogue. There's no narration. There is mood music created by the director, and a lot of cinematographic work done. Kind of the shaky cam is a part of that. I think that was enough. The only thing I will say is critical response was particularly good. Reviewers loved it. Regular theater goers, not so much, but that's not unusual for a film that has very little exposition in it and explanation as to what's going on. So with that, we'll go ahead and see if we've got some folks out there. This may be a quick nap. We'll find out. But I'm going to go ahead and ask Steve this. I'll go ahead and ask if you've seen the movie. Your call sign, your name, did you see the movie? And then we'll go through, even if you haven't seen the film, it's okay. We'll ask you for comments on anything that sounds interesting about the film. So that's part of it. Or you can just listen along. We just like to know if there's folks that are out there. First part is check-ins, followed by talking about the plot, followed by characterization, followed by special effects, technical aspects of the film, or anything you missed on the first couple of rounds. So here we go. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. And did you see moving upstream colors? So call sign, name, and did you see upstream colors? Here we go.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. Tom, as often happens late in the net, your audio got incredibly noisy. It's a hardware kind of problem, and it just got so noisy I did not understand most of what you said there, the last half of the exposition. I saw the first part of this movie, was incredibly confused and aggravated. The audio was incredibly weak. There were some Spanish subtitles covering up English subtitles, and so I was just kind of unhappy with the movie in general, so I did not see the whole thing. And I will probably just listen to some of what goes on this evening, and don't ask me for comment because I probably won't make any. And 5ED.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yeah, you did have that horrible roaring sound again, unfortunately, Tom. I did not see the movie, but I am intrigued to hear what other more brave people thought of it. I found primer to be incomprehensible, and I wasn't very interested in this, but we'll see what happens. NC5TM.
This is Whiskey 5. Bacon, lettuce, tomato. Filmed in Garland. I saw exactly 36 minutes of this horrible, horrendous, awful, stupid movie.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I think I saw even less of this than W5BLT saw. I got about a quarter of the way through it and found it so unpleasant that I could not continue. I will, however, load y'all up with comments if you want them in V5F.
Kilo 9 Alpha Hotel Oscar, Brian and Terrell. I did not see the movie, but wow, with that introduction, all I could think of was the New World Screwworm, yeah, I'm very interested to hear your comments. K9AHO.
Okay, let me get the folks checked in. I'm sorry about the audio. I've got to work on that. I've not done it. I'm not sure what's going on there. Well, I'll have to listen to the transmissions and see what they sound like. So my apologies. I have no idea what's going on. So we got N5BB Bill in Irving. He saw the first part, NT5TM Tony in Dallas. No, he didn't see it. W5BLT Bill in Garland. He saw 36 minutes. Bill, my apologies to you. This is very much a visual film, and so it probably made no sense to you. I'm sorry. NV5F Virginia, she dropped out early, so she didn't see it. K9AHO, Brian and Carol did not see it. Anyone else want to check in? Because I think this is going to be quick now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Okay, got KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, you saw the film. Excellent. Okay. Well, then why don't we just change the order? I'll go ahead and tell you what I thought of the film first and see if I can read some of my notes that I took on this thing and some of my opinions about it. I noticed the negative comments last night when we were watching the thing, and I just thought, okay. And so I just watched it alone, and I rather enjoyed it. Okay, what is it about this film that people didn't like? Well, it's understandable. The plot, first thing about the movie itself is it's almost a silent movie, which unfortunately I did not know that until I watched the film, that it was going to be like that. It's mostly atmospheric music done by the director, similar to what John Carpenter does in his films. He does all his own music, so it's not unprecedented. There is a lot of interpretation. That's very much like what we expect from Stanley Kubrick. He doesn't go in, and as one of our favorite films, 2001, has very little exposition in it. And as a result, the casual theater goers went to see that film and hated it, and most people do hate that film. The only people that like that film are aficionados, cinema fans like ourselves here on this net. And when I first saw that film, I didn't understand. I was a kid, and it took me a while to figure it out, read books and all of that. This movie is no different. It takes a bit of time to pull together, and it's going to take repeat viewings for me to fully comprehend the thing myself. But that's one of the things, and the magic about experimental films is that it does leave it up to the imagination of you and others to try and figure out what's going on, because you aren't being told everything that's happening. Films have a tendency to do that. I think that it's important to realize the difference between, say, a play that's produced on stage and the fact that there's a linear process that goes on with that, mostly. And in this case, and also, and as such, have a beginning and a middle and an end. Television series, which we're very much familiar with, have a beginning, a middle, and an end, typically. There are exceptions to that, of course. This movie takes and mixes things up a bit. We don't know exactly. There is a beginning, a middle, and an end, but they aren't necessarily understood as happening in a concurrent way. There are scenes with the couple getting together and arguing, and then together again, and then afterwards and before, so there's a bit of a time trip thing going on. Also, there's a lot of symbolism in the film, which is similar to Kubrick stuff. You have to look and watch and pay rapt attention, which can be tiring for some. And if you're watching it for the first time, it can be very, very tiring. So that's understandable. There are long scenes. It may be a little slow in the middle, which is true, but it does set a mood, and many films are like that. Francis Ford Coppola has a tendency to make films that are very long, and they're considered classics, but with long scenes. But that's to set a mood, and that is a style, and that sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. Storyline can be rough, of course. We were talking about dealing with, and a pleasant thing with this larvae at the very beginning, but we've had science fiction movies like that. Alien is one. That one's more of a horror genre, set in space, but that is considered a popular film. I think this one was a little more subtle than that, although you do have some items that would be considered graphic. I consider it a movie, and I know it's make-believe, so I'm going to take it for that. You can be squeamish, and I'm not a huge fan of horror, so that overtly doesn't offend me. I just don't particularly like it. I don't think that this was all that terrible. In essence, there's just some kind of sleight-of-hand things in it that you would expect to get your attention, but I think that the rest of the movie pretty much redeems itself after that. So I didn't have a problem with that so much. Let's see, what else do I have? I think the movie is metaphorically produced. The imagery that has it in, it might, many people who have, this movie came out in 2013. There's a lot of speculation about the film. The director has made some comments about it, but he has left it deliberately somewhat vague. Having your own interpretation of the film, I think, is great. I like those kind of films because it inspires you to think about the topics at hand. In this case, what is self-determination? What is memory? What is existence? What happens if it's invaded and changed by someone else? What are the repercussions, and how do people act and react, and how do you regain your personality, and what level of damage is done? And this can be done by society, by individuals, by experiences, emotional events. all sorts of things. These are all covered in other movies, but this one is done with a love story in between, with some existential threats that are created by the thief and by the collector in the film. So I think, and then finally a resolution. And is there truly a resolution at the end? Well, lives go on, but they are always altered in some way, shape, or form. But there is hope. There are others that had the same experiences and realize that in the end, of all things, the Book of Walden by Thoreau was the thing which is a book about self-reliance and natural understanding of the world around you, and the clarity that comes from that, and it's used as therapy to bring people back from this experience that they had, and that's how the film ends, which is interesting. I found it interesting and insightful. I'm not quite sure how to articulate everything that happened in it, because I'm not sure I understand it all, and I don't think anybody ever will, but that's okay. There's another aspect of the film to keep in mind. I've used this example numerous times, but The Twilight Zone was a great series, not because the stories were fantastic. The stories always ended in a sort of an open-ended way. We never knew or understood why people, we understood what happened, and people had justified come up and by the conclusion of the movie with some sort of television episode with some sort of a twist at the end, and your antagonist usually got what was due them, and protagonists sometimes didn't always get what they wanted, but generally they succeeded in some way, shape, or form. But we never knew what the benevolent force was, and it changed from episode to episode. The only time that those shows didn't work is when you knew, like a dental episode or an alien with a grudge or something like that. Then those are the weakest episodes because you knew the motive behind it. And with Twilight Zone, you were never sure what the motive was, just that it was going to set something correct or correct a problem of some sort. So I don't know. So this is one of those films. There have been others like that. I think it was ended on literally a cliffhanger with people hanging off the cliff. And that's how the movie ended. And people speculated about the end through all of that. So did that help any? Probably not. If you like Kafka, oh, I was going to mention too on books. One of the things about books that can work, that is more difficult in film and definitely difficult on stage, is the ability for you that if you do tell a story, you can tell the story out of order. It's always easy to refer back in the book to prior chapters or even go forward if you feel so inclined. That's kind of cheating in my view. But you can go back and reference and re-reference and figure out where the heck a story is going and piece together things. That's entirely possible. There are conventions that you have in movies where you have some situation, you open up in the middle of something, and then it comes back and says 3 days earlier. Well, this film has some of those elements, but of course it's all mixed together. And as such, and since there isn't a lot of narration and there isn't a lot of exposition, it's more difficult to try and piece it together. Probably the closest thing that I've seen on television like that is the first season of the series Westworld, which you did not know was taking place in 2 or 3 different time periods, decades apart, and it wasn't a way to really know that, and it wouldn't be until I think the second season until it became more clear. And that series was also filled with symbolism, and it fell on its face because of that, because not every casual viewer couldn't exactly like or engage the series. But it did last, 3 seasons, maybe 4. So it wasn't an entire failure. So these are the chances that you take with a film. And I particularly liked it. Again, I've got to go back, and I will probably watch it again. I think it had a lot going for it, and I'm still wondering, asking questions about hope, redemption, understanding, all the things that make us human. But it's more on an emotional level than it does definitely than on an exposition level. All right, well, I don't know if that helped. Probably not much at all, but because it is a tough film to follow, but I think it was well worth it. Let me go to, let me see here. I'm going to go to Sean. Sean, I'm going to jump to you because you saw the whole film. What are your impressions about it from KE5ICX? And you don't have to take it in different sections. You can go ahead and give me the whole thing, or if you really just want to talk about it, that's fine, and then I'll go ahead and let others chime in. So, Sean, I'm going to take you next. KB9SOK, what do you think?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Just as a reference, just so you know, that time, Tom, your audio was good the whole time, so it worked really well. So that was good. We heard all of it. I agree with you, Tom, everything you said there. I think you covered it actually really well. Yeah, I did get why some of you were disturbed by the beginning. As Tom mentioned, we had the parasite, and then we see a woman getting abducted, and, clearly, being borderline tortured to the point where where she was even using a knife on herself to cut the parasite out. So, yes, the first third of this movie, or at least the first quarter, was kind of disturbing. And as Tom mentioned, it was kind of out of order. So it is tough, that first part. I agree. You really do got to watch this movie all the way through. There is a payoff at the end, but it is a slow burn. Be prepared for that. I mean, if you continue to watch it, it is very slow-paced. They very slowly leak stuff out. I'd say about halfway through, I thought it was pretty clear what was going on. You had an idea. You knew that this parasite was being used to control, or could be, and then also anybody that had been affected by it could also share memories and could, almost see other people and what was happening to them. And, of course, for some of you, you may not also like the fact that they never really explain where this parasite comes from. Was it man-made? Did it come from space? They never explained why it had this ability. You just knew that once you were infected once with it, that while it was in your body, you could be controlled. Once it was removed, you couldn't be controlled anymore, but you still had a link to other people that had the parasite. And it takes about halfway through the movie to really kind of see that's what was going on. And then it is about halfway through where you realize this thing's not 100% in order. But once you hit the end, you'll figure out where things should have dropped in order. So yeah, it is kind of tough to watch. Kind of interesting too. They touch on a lot of things, like Tom said. Everything from like the sounds the guy was recording. As he recorded those sounds, and he was so focused on them, the other people that had been infected with the parasite could also hear those sounds, and they didn't understand, why it was mesmerizing them. But it was like things around them were mimicking those sounds. So there was a lot of imagery, a lot of unusual ties, why the parasite would cause all this to happen. We never really figured that out. But as Tom mentioned, it's really about the experience of the people. Even to the point, one of the big things that they point out at about halfway through is that the husband and wife that both got infected by this thing, both were seeing each other's memories. But then they started to think that they're their own memories, and especially the guy, at times he totally forgot which ones were his memories and which ones were hers, because he had felt them so many times that he started to mix it up with his own. She had a better luck with keeping it, but they could tell that somehow or another they knew were sharing these like they had a common childhood, even though they didn't. So, yeah, I mean, it really plays with those kind of things quite a bit. It was almost like they almost had that hive mind kind of thing going on. You know, it was, you know, they pretty much knew what each other was going to say or do. So yeah, it was interesting. It was told definitely strange. You know, there was, like Tom said, a lot of symbolism. You know, everything from the book and her diving in the pool and gathering rocks. And I guess there's no point in getting too much of that since most of you hadn't seen any of those scenes. But I would just say, you know, overall, I will say, which once again sounds like I'm on the opposite side of the aisle again this week, I liked it. It sounds like most of you didn't. And I can understand why. Because it did drag pretty hard. And there was times I'm like, okay, you could pick up the pace. I think they probably could have cut out the sound part and spending so much time focused on that, because that took so much time of this movie. You know, it did need a little better pace. But that's probably my biggest complaint about this movie, was just the pacing could have been better, but I get what the creator of this was going for, but it does make it tough. I will... But I will say I did like it overall. I wouldn't say I'd put it in my top movies, but I did enjoy it. Like Tom, I probably will at some point, probably sooner than later, go back and rewatch it, because I have a feeling that I'm going to pick up on things I didn't pick up the first time. I almost rewatched it before the net and just ran out of time. But overall, I thought it was an interesting movie, and it's definitely one where you need to be free. You definitely can't be focused on other things while you watch this, because it is so visual. You really do need to watch it and stay with it. But totally get it, though, if it's that slow burn. It's just something you can't deal with. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Back to that KB9S, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if the sound part was, as you say, was it necessary? Well, I know that they were talking about a cycle and the fact that this is a repeating cycle, and I know that one of the things the director mentioned was that having an antagonist, one person, is familiar, but having multiple people involved, and not all of them antagonistic. They're doing their own thing along the way, and are a part of that process, and maybe aware or not aware of the others. Kind of depends on what you consider awareness to be. But in the end, I think that having the audio part of it, the sampler part, was kind of important as an audio part, along with the visuals that go along with it. It was kind of an interesting approach. It kind of had me interested because of almost the technical aspect of the fact that it was integral to the story. Was it too long, perhaps? It's so hard to say on a movie like this. I mean, again, we referenced our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's a lot of nothing happening in that film, but I sit there and I watch it all the time. Blade Runners is another film, although it's got more action in it. It has a lot of things that are not are too long in a traditional sense, but the fact that it puts you in the mood as an audience member, bringing you into the story. Part of it is actually an attraction to the slower movement through it, the sonic sound, music, everything about it is very mesmerizing. And I think there's a certain extent that plays in this film too, on a little different emotional level, but still attributed to that sonic blendedness in the film. All right, let me see here. With that, let me jump up to Tony in C5TV now. Tony, I'm not sure what to ask you at this point. So everybody's got negative feelings, so I'm not sure. I like to
Good evening, Tom, and thank you. You know, I think the longer you transmit, the more your audio dissolves into that roaring noise. I made up my own name here, so I'm pretty sure you said something like Tony. I don't even know what to ask. Yeah, I've heard some very strongly contrasting opinions. I don't know. I may try it, but I think there are some it really sounds like there are some serious world-building mistakes in this movie. You know, if robbery by parasite is such a common thing that a random pig farmer knows about it, and weirdly, I guess he collects mementos of it or something. I'm not sure I understood what that collector or sampler guy was supposed to be doing and why. You know, the police have units for crimes against the elderly and bicycle theft and cell phone theft, and why isn't there a parasite squad? You know, people certainly don't seem to know they're being fed these Wrath of Khan style parasites. And when I first heard your summary of this movie last week, I really thought of the Wrath of Khan. It's like, oh yeah, they're going to put little things in their ears and convince them to betray their captain. So yeah, I think this world was woefully incomplete by the sound of it, but it sounds like some of you enjoyed the strange artistry of it anyway. So I don't know. I might try it. I'm more undecided than I thought I would be. I thought I would just be like, but I'm actually undecided. So I guess that's you and Sean are working hard. NT 5 PM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Yeah, well, there's no denying that could be a problem. That, you know, how could they keep this a secret for so long and for how long, and we don't know. So I'm not sure that it would hold up under the logic part of it. Though it's interesting with this director's previous film Primer, which is like you need a frickin' it's like playing 5-dimensional chess with that. That in this case he's doing more of an emotional appeal rather than an intellectual appeal in it, but he can't totally divorce himself from that, so I don't know. Maybe there's something there that I'm not aware of. Again, repeat viewings may be to our benefit. All right, let's see here. We got a listener there. I'll go with Virginia. She's the only one that's all part of the film, and I know you dropped out early, so go ahead with your comments. I'm not even sure. Again, I don't know what to ask on this one, so go ahead from KE5 ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. First off, I did make an audio recording of your last over, and then when you came back between Tony and me, you sounded fine, so it might have something to do with overheating or something. Anyway, I'll discuss that with you after this. Gosh, I have more to say than I thought I would. I did make copious, scribbly, nearly incoherent notes. I am not undecided. I don't want to watch the rest of this, and part of it's on principle. I don't like art for art's sake. I just think it's pretentious. I think it is obnoxious. I think people do see movies like those of Mr. Kubrick and think, oh, he was just doing art for its own sake. And they try to do the same thing, and they fail miserably because Stanley Kubrick had some crazy genius about telling stories and getting into the psychology of a story and fine-tuning a plot down to its bare minimum. But it had a plot. It had exposition. He was a master at exposition. And to say that most people hated 2001 when it came out is a myth. It was very successful. In fact, the critics in New York were the main people who didn't like it. Critics across the country generally liked it. Audiences liked it. It was very successful the year it came out. It was odd. There were people who weren't getting what they expected. But over the years, people have paid attention to it and kept watching it because it's brilliant. It is so well done. It has held up. It'll still be around. This movie, you know, it came out 13 years ago. No one remembers it. It had zero music in the first quarter. It was nothing but that dry, dull audio, the low contrast, dull, too dark, too quiet, no humor. It had, I mean, 2001, even the first couple segments of it are full of humor and just tongue-in-cheek whimsy like crazy. This can't even begin to be compared to Kubrick. Not at all. Kubrick, you know, I have a list of all the things this movie had none of in the first quarter. It had no exposition. It had no explanations. It had no heart. It had no soul. It had no hope. It had no purpose. And it had no appeal. There was not even a hint of any of that. You mentioned, Tom, The Twilight Zone. As weird as The Twilight Zone was, it had a real strong sense of story. It had heart. As disturbing as a story might be, it usually had a moral and a conclusion and justice. And I just found this movie devoid of any of that. And maybe later on, like y'all said, if you hang on, you get, you know, you care about these characters. This lady meets some other guy who's got the same problem, but there was just no appeal to these people or their situation. Why would anybody go through so much trouble to steal someone's home equity? You know, just get online and scam them, for goodness sake. It doesn't seem really plausible at all. I also find that a lot of people, when they're trying to be artsy and avant-garde, they'll tell a story out of order for no reason. If telling a story out of order does not serve the story and confuses people, it's just pretentious, artsy bullcrap. And an example I'm going to give, and I sound like a broken record, but a movie that used a story told out of order to great purpose recently was Project Hail Mary. That story had all of its weight because of how it was told. It was told in flashback. The flashbacks tracked in order with the story in the present that was also told in order. So it wasn't told completely out of order, but it had a purpose to its being told with flashbacks, and every flashback hooked into the scene that was previous. It was brilliantly done, and it was very purposeful to the weight of the great reveal at the end of the story. And it was one time when a trope or a device that's a cliche, actually you break the rules when you need to, and Andy Weir broke the rules and did that to great effect, and Stanley Kubrick did the same thing. And you got to be smart to do that. You can't just be some artsy-fartsy person who does pretty good at cinematography and likes to have body horror and disturbing stuff. So this may have gotten better as it went, and it sounds like it did, but it has to, you know, a movie screenplay has to win you over in the first 10 pages. And that means a movie has to win the audience in the first 5 or 10 minutes. And I was done well before I stopped watching this. So, you know, I cared about that gal and what was happening to her, but it just looked so hopeless and bleak. And I've just been burned by too many nihilistic, dreary, boring, artsy, pretentious, low volume, low light, fuzzy, flowy, you know, blech, science fiction movies. So I was out, I'm still out, but thanks for listening. Back to net in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Well, you know, I'm not going to be able to convince you one way or the other, and we all have our favorite styles and films and things like that. I mean, I'm thinking of films that are tough watches. Brand with Patrick McGowan from 1959 is an excellent film. It is really tough to watch, and it is considered a classic, maybe a lesser classic. People don't always remember it. The Henry Gibson story. It's another one I was thinking of, Seventh Seal would be another example. Ingrid Bergman. These are classical type stories in that case that are full of exposition, but they're really tough to listen to and to follow with long narratives and things like and static sets. So when you watch these things, they're tough watches. When you go to the other direction, such as this, and you're working with something where it is definitely film, it is not static, it's moving through kind of a metaphorical storyline with lots of artwork and art things in it to help to do the story. I don't consider those tricks. I consider those features of the media itself. Now, there are all sorts of things that occur in that. We probably will disagree about this part. You can have dimly lit. Now, poorly lit is another story, and I understand there's a difference between dim and poor, and some of that's going to be personal opinion as well as to where they draw the line, and I get that. That's okay. So all films aren't going to be all things to all people, and everybody's not going to love every single film. Otherwise, it'd be every film would make money because you know exactly what the formula would be to make it, the secret sauce to make the film, and that's maybe something good to know. I don't know. Those are the concerns I've got with it. It's just. I think it was a better film than people are giving it credit, but that's my opinion, and I'm just one person. So that's kind of where we're at with that one. Okay, let me jump over to poor Bill, W5DLT. Bill, my apologies. I did not. I don't screen these films if I've never seen them. I kind of want to see them with everybody else. I did not know that this film was so visually entrenched with no dialogue. It's like, how the hell are you going to watch this thing? And you were pretty much handicapped from that. So, but I'll let you speak your mind. W5DLT from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Tom. One of the things, I never hold you responsible for these, so it's all good. Probably didn't help I'm dealing with a splitting headache that I've been having for the past, 10 days or so. So anyway, I got medicine for it, more hanging in there, but almost didn't make the net, but I thought I'll give this movie a go. Yeah, it was hard because I think the first 36 minutes for me didn't really have much dialogue to go on. I was lost. I had to go to the internet to figure out what this was about. And I did discover one thing, though, with my talkback screen reader. I can swipe over to comments, and it starts reading. So that's kind of nice that it'll read the dialogue. So I discovered that little piece of information and was very happy because when there was dialogue in this movie, it was hard to hear. I think the plot is intriguing. I think the concept's intriguing. Many times, I will go back and watch a movie that I didn't like after you all have described it. Case in point, The Truman Show. I have a newfound love for that, whereas I first watched I didn't. But you filled in a lot of gaps and I liked it. This one I don't know because there's some dialogue to speak of. May not go back and watch it. But it sure makes the Labyrinth look good down to me. But no, seriously, there are going to be films like that, and I love hearing everybody's opinions, and I wish there were more dialogue. I kept having to try to get AI descriptions. Trying to get AI descriptions for me just got monotonous, but no, whether I like the movie or not, I always like the Afterglow movie net. W5FC. Back to you, Tom.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thanks. Yeah, well, you keep coming back. Everybody keeps coming back. We've had winners, we've had losers, we've had movies that with splits down the middle. It's relatively rare that there's been a split. This is one of those rare times where we had a split. People either liked this movie or they hated it. And so this one, the split is fascinating in and of itself, and I'm not even quite sure what to make of it. But like I said, for me, I'm going to have to go back and watch it again. It's one of those films, and I've mentioned this before, on films, repeat viewing sometimes help. Sometimes they don't yield anything if there's something there. But generally speaking, of course, you don't know what it is, right? You don't know which film is going to hit you a certain way, and you say, I've got to watch it again. And what's that line? What's the minimum line? Or what is the maximum line for that? What is going to get me to watch the film again? We can go back to Kubrick and talk about something like 2001, which is everybody's favorite movie on this net, or pretty close to. And we've watched that film hundreds of times. I know I have. How many times have I watched Barry Lyndon? About 20% of that film I can sit through, and that's it. Eyes Wide Shut, which is a really finely crafted film and very good. I've only watched that film twice. I try and get it going and to watch it. Is it a great film? It's a pretty darn good film, but it's not one that I watch. It really isn't. If I had my choice, I'd go watch the candy corn Spartacus, because that one's entertaining and it's got actors and storyline that I can follow. So I turn into the populist guy along the way too. So I understand that. So there's always a variation, and everybody can edit a film because we know how long we can sit, right? If we're sitting there and our butts are numb from watching a film, it's too long, it needs editing, right? Or a scene goes too long. Well, is the scene too long, really? It's like what I was just talking about earlier. It's hard to say, you know, where do you take it? And what about director's cut? You look at George Lucas. You got George Lucas, who, when he originally edited Star Wars, it was terrible. And some of the scenes that still exist that were excised from the final cut, you watch them, they are plotting, slow-moving stuff, and it wasn't until who he ended up marrying was the editor on the film, and I think it was Francis Ford Coppola who helped him to redo the film in a way that made it a success, and it became a popular success. It was all about the editing. The story was okay. It was the editing that was just terrible. Fix that, you fix the movie. So that's all there. I mean, you go down this slippery slope. It's like watching this movie. Where do you draw the line? How do you draw the line? What parts do you feel are pertinent? And is your opinion any more important than somebody else's opinion? Well, it's not really. I mean, we all have our own ideas, and they're going to be my top 10 films are going to be different from somebody else's top 10 films, and my bottom 10 films are definitely going to be different from others. And it's going to be because some of those films, the top and the bottom, end up on the same list, only reversed with others, you know? Somebody's world's worst movie is somebody else's treasure. And that's true, because it's got the elements that people want or hate, depending on how you look at it. And I sometimes am amazed at television series and movies that are popular, and I consider them unwatchable. Is that me? Or is that the people? Well, obviously it's the people because I'm a genius, right? So those things have to be taken into consideration as well. And what about the reviewers, the people that review the movies and come back and make a statement? Are they snobs? No, we think they are. Are they right? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, at least from a populist standpoint. But, you know, what is your criteria and how do you look at it? Visceral reaction? Maybe, but how long will you stay with it until you say, this is terrible? Some films, it's 10 seconds. Do you give it 20 seconds? Do you give it 50 seconds? Do you give it a half hour? Do you give it 30 minutes? How far do you go before you call it quits? And that's a very good question to ask because you may be right. Why waste my time? Or you may be wrong. And maybe I need to watch it. And the other thing, too, is that our opinions of movies change over time. Let me reset. The movie that I use as an ongoing joke, if you've ever heard me talk about it, is a movie called My Dinner with Andre. It is, when I first saw it, I think it was in 1981, I wanted to gouge my eyes out and stick an ice pick in the right temple of my head because I couldn't stand any more of that movie. I did a review of it a few years ago now. I haven't seen it recently. And I have a completely different opinion of that movie. Why? I was 30 years older, and I figured out what the hell was going on. Life made a complete difference. And my appreciation for that movie changed from the worst movie I had ever seen to one of the best. That's possible because of our opinions and how we think and how we feel and how we grapple with things as we age. And I think that's an important aspect as well. Events that occur in your life will affect your view and purview, which is kind of what this movie is about. It talks about that, but strictly from a clinical standpoint, how we think and how we react and act today is different than we were 10 years ago, 20 years, and 30 years ago. Do we have the same personalities? More or less. Are we influenced by others? Yes. Do we know what things we like now as opposed to what we knew when we were younger? Would we make the same choices that we... These are all great fodder for movies, too, right? For titles and for storylines and how we change and evolve over time. All those things matter, and they matter in the movie. And how you go about doing it makes for interesting stories. I mean, that's what the human condition is all about. All right. Well, I didn't call on some folks because they said they didn't want to get called on. I'll just go ahead and open it up. Anybody wants to make any additional comments, we can go ahead and do that. It's kind of a non-traditional way of doing it tonight simply because it was kind of a non-traditional movie. So if you got any comments, just come with your call now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
NV5F. KB9S, okay?
Okay, good. We got Bill, N5BB, NV5F, and KB9S, okay. We'll go in that order. Bill, you're up.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, I've been listening to all this, and I give you an idea, the place where I stopped watching it, and there's a reason I needed to stop watching it, which I would have anyway. I needed to leave what I was doing, but I didn't go back to it. And the place I stopped was when the girl got the knife and was looking at the worms crawling in her arm. Okay, so I didn't watch very much of the movie. But Tom, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be too negative, but I'm going to make one comment about your comments this evening. I completely agree with Virginia. Okay, and I think, Tom, if you took a piece of paper and you made two columns about your comments, the first column would be things directly about what happened in the movie, and the second column would be ideas about film that you might have somebody discussing in a film class about different things. Originally, I was going to say that 90% of your comments were in the second column, but after that last segment, I'm going to say that 99% of your comments were in the second column. So, listening to all of your comments, I know very little more about what really this movie was about. I know a lot about your thoughts about esoteric things in movies and all that kind of stuff, but I know very little more about the movie. So that's just my comment there. I'm getting very little from listening to this whole thing, other than people either not liking it or you really liking it. So I have one question. When I started the movie, there's this guy collecting the worms, the nematodes, or whatever they were. They looked like inchworms, or whatever they were, and then getting the girl to swallow them. It looked like torture to me and kidnapping. The only question I have is, other than stealing money from her, is there any other reason he's doing this? Is he sadistically trying to control her life, or is he somebody from an alien from another civilization? If he's a regular human, why is he doing that? And that's my only question. It's Habibi.
And Bill, I think that's part of the rub is we don't know. There's a lot of the unknowns in that, and that's why I'm talking in a kind of a metaphorically way, because to drill down on something like that is difficult. Now, that's a rub with people. That's not enough reason or explanation or enough to carry the story, and I get that. But it also has to do, it is metaphorical in the sense that it's telling a story of this cycle and how it appears and how people react to it. So it's a reaction thing. Is that a good way to tell the story? I don't know. It's just the way that this one was told, and there are unknowns. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things is I think there's enough in it. It's going to require, and this is true, and you'll see the reviewers will say the same thing. Hey, you got to go back and watch it a second and maybe a third time. Now, a lot of people aren't going to do that, nor will want to, and that's fine. But I think there's something here that needs to be better understood and more attention paid to. You can use an example of a whodunit. If you don't pay attention to what's happening, strict attention, then you aren't going to get the full benefit of the whodunit. And that may have something to do with it. That's why it's so difficult to explain, because it's a difficult movie to explain because I don't quite fully get it yet. That's my problem. Okay, next up is Virginia, ND5F. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start my comments with this first poster that Dave always does these funny posters for our Afterglow enjoyment, and the first poster that he found has a bunch of glowing reviews for this movie. I'm going to read these. The first review, they're all clips, they're not full reviews, they're just quotes from reviews. The first one is, mind-blowing. plunges audiences into a realm of unknown pleasures. Next one is bewitching, breathtaking, and brilliant. The next one is a strangely beautiful film. The next one is elegant, joyous, overwhelming, and thrilling. So, when I went into watching this, because the marketing on it looks very weird and bleary and dreary and desaturated and kind of amorphous, and I thought, okay, well, these reviews, I'll give it a chance just based on these reviews. And of course, I'm going to also start with, Tom, I don't hold you responsible for any of this. I know you pick these things sight unseen, but I do feel compelled to be honest. So I just wonder if watching, I just don't believe that continuing to watch this all the way to the end would have made me agree with any of these reviews that I just read. I appreciate, Tom, your comments about Stanley Kubrick movies. 2001 was his most successful film. That was the film, I think, where he found his voice. He had so much time to make it that it was the first movie where he came into his own completely as far as just his MO. And then I, as a populist myself, I'm a full-blown populist when it comes to movies. I know people have the right to make whatever kind of movie they want. They can make an artsy-fartsy, movie like this one. They have every right to make it, and I have every right to hate it and think it's pretentious and full of crap. And people can think that about anything Stanley Kubrick made, but his stuff has stood the test of time, and as a populist, there's only about 3 Stanley Kubrick movies I can stand to watch, because his movies get so to the heart of things. They're so psychological. They're so piercing that my heart can't handle most of his stuff. 2001, Spartacus, that was just him directing a big studio film. He was for hire on that. Dr. Strangelove is so satirical and crazy and very disturbing, but done in a way that's just so farcical and broad that it's like a way of delivering that. And there's something about that movie. I can watch that one. Most of his others I can't handle. And that's for one reason or another. But I think the thing that Stanley Kubrick did, despite his brilliance and his absolutely just his aesthetic, his incisiveness, what he always did was he worked within parameters. And one of the parameters was, he wouldn't do something like tell a story out of order just to make it weird and avant-garde. He wouldn't be like, I'm going to be artsy and just tell this in a weird order. Everything he did somehow served what he was trying to get to. And he had a lot of involvement in his editing process, and he had a lot of involvement down to every detail of a movie. And he would use things like music in ways that could delight or just, make you just laugh or just terrify you. I mean, the way he used music, the way he used psychology in movies. And so that's why his stuff is not only very artful and has been called avant-garde, but it's still around because he worked in parameters. And those were the main points I wanted to make, was that I am also a very discerning person about what my heart can handle, but at the same time, I'm trying to be objective enough to go, yeah, Kubrick's movies, most of them, I can't handle them, but I know I've seen enough of his stuff that I can handle to see how he worked. And people try to be like that, and I feel like they try too hard, and it comes out like these kind of movies. And we've seen several movies that are kind of on this level as far as, let's just be really weird and make people figure it out, you know, and I'm wondering if there's a part of them that's like a Kubrick fan that's like, I'm going to try to be like Kubrick in 2001 and leave it up to the people to interpret. And you can, but if there's no story and there's no, I mean, gosh, Kubrick did exposition. There's the scene where Dave finishes, you know, he disconnects Hal, and then that trips that sort of autoplay video of Dr. Floyd saying, you know, now that you've reached Jupiter space, and it's this procedural, it's super dry, and I was reading an article in a book about 2001. It was like the umpteenth book I've read about the making of 2001, and I thought, how can there be anything new in here? And the guy who wrote this book, he wrote an article about certain aspects of Kubrick's exposition, and he would take something like the BBC interview, and he would do this classic sort of data dump, you know, kind of exposition, and people like rag on directors for doing that, but Kubrick could do it in a way where it was just like, yeah, that's how it would happen, you know. And then this thing where Dr. Floyd is just saying all the stuff about the monoliths and the, you know, and now that you're in Jupiter space and everybody's been revived and blah, 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 no one only on board by your HAL 9000 computer. I mean, just from that, you could figure out just from listening to that what happened to Hal. And it's just, how does he do it? Because it seems so like, oh, that's so trite, that's so tropey to do that, but he can do it, and it works. It's like one of these things where it's just so, like, yeah, that's how it would happen. He just, you know, so anyway, I don't plan to watch this. I did not find there to be anything compelling in it. And I'm just not compelled by, oh, let me see if I can, like, you know, watch this 2 or 3 times and bend my brain enough to figure out whether it's something that I could find meaning in. And maybe there is great meaning in the rest of it, but I'm just not compelled enough by the first quarter of it. So, you know, no worries, and of course I hold no one responsible for this film except the guy who made it, and I'm not going to watch any of his other stuff either. Back to net, NV5F.
No, I get it. I fully understand. And no, you don't want to self-mutilate yourself of watching a film that you're not going to like. I will recommend the film, and it's available for free. It is a Kubrick film, The Killing from 1956. Film noir. I think you'll like it. It's just the right length, and it's another style. With Kubrick, he had no money when he made that film. I think you'll like it. It's not one that people talk about because it's just not on the radar, but it's still worth it. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK, your comment.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I was just going to mention a couple things. Well, one thing that was kind of interesting, there's a couple of reviewers of science fiction movies that I watch online, and usually every week they come out with recommendations, and one of them goes into, like, the obscure stuff, a lot of the stuff like we watch on here a lot, and then the other is more mainstream. And oddly enough, in the last month, both of them recommended this movie, and both very much liked it. Now, one of them did mention that the first time they watched it, they were not a fan. It did take them a couple viewings. And generally, yes, I agree. If I've got to repeat something over and over to acquire the taste for it, then I don't want to do it. This one luckily caught me about halfway through because the first part was so rough. And had I those other two reviewers that I watch basically talk about how good this movie was, I may have also gave up on it. But I am glad at the end of the day that I did watch it. I totally get it. Why you wouldn't want to watch this. Because there is definitely some holes. As, you know, Bill was asking, we don't know much about this parasite. We don't know if it came from space. We don't know if it's man-made. They leave that really up to you. Because this thing almost, you might as well say it has almost special powers. The ability to control, the ability share memories. Also, too, you find out later on in the movie that the girl had cancer, and this parasite actually cured her. And she didn't even know she had cancer. She didn't find out later because she went to the hospital for another issue. So, it does borderline on fantasy, obviously, which gets tricky. Now, in this movie, I will say, normally also, too, I don't like it when they tell stories out of order. But this wasn't, I don't believe this was done for art. It did need to be told out of order. Because once you hit the end of it, you get the explanation of why they were telling it out of order. And it all boils down to how those flowers got infected. So they really had to show the beginning, show the boys taking it. So it really did need to be. Yes, was there way too much artsy stuff in this? Yeah, I would agree with that. Tom made some good points about how important the sound was, or the sound the guy was recording. It was important, but I think it could have been shorter. Could we done without the whole cancer part of it? Yeah, we could have done without that, because once again, it didn't really give us an answer where the parasites came from. So they could have cut that. And yeah, I do think there was some artsy stuff that could have been cut. But I think this movie is going to end up being a lot like Primer. Most people hated that when it came out. And over time, it has gained a lot of respect in the science fiction community. It is slowly moving up on the ranking for a lot of people's lists. And I think this movie will eventually, too. I don't think it's going to be as well received as Primer in the long run. And and by no means am I saying this is going to be one of the greats, because it's not. Once again, I'm just putting this into what I thought was a good category. And, I did get something out of it. It's definitely not in the great category, like some of the other movies that have been mentioned tonight. It's definitely not in that. But yeah, normally I don't like the Outdoors of 2. I do think Hail Mary handled it very well. I did understand what they did there and liked it. But generally, yeah, I don't like that either. But it does actually work for this movie if you want to. I totally get it if you don't want to. Yeah, I think it is intentional. There was no real music in this film. I think they really want you to focus in on the sound, the sounds that were being made. Also, too, I agree the audio did suck. For some reason, the voices were super low, but the sounds were higher. That could have been better. Now, I didn't have a problem with the language thing. Mine didn't go on top of each other. Mine language did the English showed up below the what other language it was in. But yeah, all in all, as always, I agree with everybody that the net is always enjoyable. I very much enjoy it. Always looking forward to what everybody has to say about this. In some ways, this is the fun kind of net where we do have some back and forth with why people like it or don't like it at all. So it's always fun. Anyway, enjoyed it as always. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Okey-doke. Oh, thank you, Sean. This is KE5ICX Friday. Okay, anyone else have any other final comments before we close it out? Now, I'm trying to pick a movie here, but unless anybody's got a recommendation that they know is available for free, I'll take that too. Any final comments?
NV5F.
NV5F, Virginia, you get the final word. Go ahead.
Well, believe it or not, this has mostly to do with your audio. I've not found a consistency with the issues with your audio, because sometimes you can transmit for a long time, like on your one of your I guess your second big round of comments about the movie. You transmitted for a very long time, and there was no problems. And then sometimes you'll transmit for like a minute, and about halfway through there'll be a little bit of starting in your, like, kind of building in your signal. So I made an audio file of one of your transmissions where that sound really fired up. It came in really strong when you were reading the synopsis of the movie, and then when you dropped carrier and came back with about the last third of the synopsis, it was clear as a bell. So I don't know if it's a connection problem or something, but it's very inconsistent, and it's been going on for a while, for months and months now. So I'm going to figure out a way to edit down this audio file and send it to you or drop it in a drive online or something where you can download it and listen to it, and I'll work on that either tonight or tomorrow. So nothing about the movie except thank you for choosing all these movies, and I'm looking forward to Back to the Future a week from right now. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Well, one thing that helps me is your description. It's giving me some ideas I may try. The one thing is that move from one location to another. So 3 months ago I was in a different condo here in the building and moved over to a different building. But the setup here is a little different than it was at the other location. So that helps me understand if it's been going on even then I'm going to look at the commonality here and see what I can come up with. All right, very good. Which reminds me, since next week is indeed the Afterglow in person, I don't have to announce the movie because that's the movie we'll be watching, which will be Back to the Future. So that will be our movie, Back to the Future, for next week. We'll watch it, and then we'll review it the following Saturday. So 2 weeks from tonight, on the air, we'll be talking about Back to the Future, and come on by and visit DARC Field Day and watch the film with us at Johnson Outpost. That's at 3325 Valley View Lane in Farmers Branch. We should have a ton of food, so if you can make the trip over, we'll feed you. So that's it, everybody. Thank you. It was an interesting discussion. We'll do this again in person next week. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.
Okay, good night, Tom. Good night, everybody else. And I'm looking forward to Field Day. I hope to see y'all there in V5F. And check us out. We made it to midnight in V5F.